Predicting Auburn to go 8-4 has become the norm.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's a Crain Kick Thursday. We're joined by the Crain of Crain and Company. You guys rolled out all of your predictions this week, including the SEC predictions over at Crain and Company. And you, like a lot of folks now, are waving the flag saying, hey, Auburn is an 8-4 football team this season.
Yeah, and look, prediction week, and we kind of wait later than a lot of other people. I want to see fall camp come to the end. I need to know who gets hurt, who wins what job, and who gets arrested. So I got the best idea of what's going to happen. And because we all know, if you ever been to a fall camp, there's some good surprises, bad surprises. You worry about the injury bug, which knock on wood, it's been Auburn's been very fortunate. Don't want to jinx it, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Sure. And Zach, me and you talked about this I feel like we've been talking about this for months, man. It's either 8-4 or 9-3, right? We felt like the ceiling was 9-3, the floor was 7-5 with this schedule and with this roster. And when I sit down and I go through it, I have a method, a protocol, I call it. That once I go through it, I had Auburn winning all their home games and losing all their away games. Now you can get to 8-4 a different way, right? And I think 9-3, as I've said a million times on here, is gettable. Right? Auburn's going to have to catch a couple breaks. But, Auburn could drop one at home and then beat Kentucky on the road and still wind up 8-4 and 4-4. So I put out yesterday on social media, would 8-4 and 4-4 in the conference, would Auburn fans take that right now and be happy looking forward to 2025? And look, I want Auburn to win every game.
Yeah.
I hope Auburn goes undefeated forever. But that's not going to happen. We've said multiple times the standard should never drop, but reality has to be accepted. And the reality is Auburn is building their way to be a team that is disappointed with 8-4. And the ceiling could be higher this year. We'll see. But when you look at the way this team is put together, with what they return and what they've brought in, I think 8-4 and 4-4 in the league is the most likely thing that is going to happen. Therefore, that's what I'm putting down on the piece of paper.
Yeah, the path to 8-4, there's a bunch of different paths to 8-4. And to me, I think to go worse than 8-4, you almost got to say, okay, you got to go out of your way to say Auburn's going to lose all of these toss-up games, which I don't think anybody really believes that's going to happen unless you're just a hater. So, you talk about running it at home. That means you beat Oklahoma and beat Texas A&M, and you lose to Kentucky and Missouri when you're talking about strictly the toss-up games. And to me, I don't know if you're going to lose both Kentucky and Missouri. I also don't think you're going to lose both of Oklahoma and Texas A&M, by the way. So it's like everything's kind of split. It's if Auburn go 500 here or 500 there or 500 in all their toss-up games, that's fine. But there's also a realistic chance to beat Oklahoma and beat Texas A&M at home, and they also steal one on the road at Kentucky or at Missouri.
Yeah, well, the hint, I try and look throughout the season and find hinge games, right? And we in the media have the advantage of being able to look ahead. Auburn is just looking at week one, and they should be looking at week one, getting ready. That's the player's job. That's the coach's job. But when I look at hinge games for this season, I look at Oklahoma coming into Jordan-Hare for that fifth game. Because if you look at the way the schedule works out after that, you got to go to Georgia. It gets a lot more difficult, right? You start that away stretch. It's the Oklahoma game at home. And it's the Kentucky game on the road. And possibly, I'm telling you, Missouri lost Darius Smith, who, if you look at the way this Missouri team on defense is concocted, they don't have a ton of great pass rushers. One of the best players they had on defense last year, Darius Robinson, I watched him down the Senior Bowl. He won defensive MVP, was a really good player. Losing Darius Smith, the Georgia transfer, is going to hurt them defensively. We know that Drink and Brady Cook and Luther Burden and Weeze and all those guys are going to be good on offense, but how balanced will Missouri be? So, that's a game that's a little bit more in play right now to me for Auburn than it was before that injury or before I kind of started seeing what was going on in fall camp.
Yeah.
But if you look again, it's not hard to do the math. You don't have to, be able to do a Sudoku blindfolded to know that if Auburn just wins one of these road games and hold serve at home, which in reality, they should probably be the favorite at home in almost each one of these games. We'll see how A&M is down the stretch. I got A&M having a pretty big year, so we'll see there. But this is the first time in a while I feel like Auburn is just better than most of the teams on their schedule.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with they're not playing just the SEC West. They can play, some of those SEC East teams as
and the
well.
non-conference.
Yeah, the non-conference is easier. You get Cal at home for sure. Yeah, so you've got Auburn going 8-4, and then both your brother and Cone has Auburn going 8-4 as well. I mean, that seems to become a normal prediction when national folks like yourself are talking about the Auburn Tigers. And I just don't feel like that was the case leaving spring. So in your mind, you said, okay, hey, I want to wait till the end of fall camp to make these predictions. At what point did it change from 6-6 or 7-5 to 8-4 for you? What changed for you to say, okay, yeah, this team can overachieve by Vegas standards of that 7.5 total win mark?
Well, I wanted to see how bad the injuries were during spring and then through fall camp. I wanted to see who came in through the portal in the summer and who left, especially at the line of scrimmage. And then just seeing and talking to people that are there, on the coaching staff, how the team is gelling, how Peyton Thorne is feeling going into year 2 in this RPO system. And I brought up multiple times, I think the decision-making from Peyton last year kind of surprised me that he wasn't great in that regard. And it shouldn't really have surprised me that much because even though he's a coach's kid, he was coming from a pretty much pro-style drop-back system at Michigan State into what is a zone run RPO, just a different scheme. Your eyes are in different places. The decision-making and the timing is way different. And then how much help could these young guys actually give him? How much help can Cam Coleman actually give him? Perry Thompson. How do the transfers blend in? Are they leaders in the room? And it just seems like Auburn has caught breaks there. They've added depth on the defensive line from a pass rush standpoint, especially, which they had to have to be able to not only get after the quarterback, but take some pressure off an inexperienced back end when you look at what Auburn lost last year. So it's just a combination of all those things, Zach, and then looking at who they play and how their spring practice and how their fall camps kind of went. So that's what got me there. It's not blind hope. And look, I know, and I want to make sure everybody understands. And I said on the show yesterday, if you gave me 8-4, 4-4 right now this year, I would take that. I would take it right now. I would get in the car and I would go home. And the reason for that is not because I think Auburn should just always be happy with 8-4, but you got to be where your feet are. Like this is part of building a program. We've seen this everywhere else, right? Building the program up to the point where that standard is what the standard should be, and the expectation is what the expectation should be. Even with the transfer portal, football is the hardest sport to turn over quickly and win at a very high level. One, because it's the ultimate team sport, and you got 11 cats on the field at one time. Like in basketball, you got 5. In baseball, it's a lot more individualized. I got a guy up there throwing 98 with a good slider. You're in trouble for about 7 innings. So when I look at this Auburn team, I don't want Auburn people to think that, hey, Jake's saying 8-4 is okay. We should always be okay with 8-4. Hugh Freeze and them, I don't think, are okay with 8-4. But deep down, they understand that now they can go back in that recruit's living room and say, see, we're making progress. You're the difference in us being 8-4 and 10-2 or 11-1 or 12-0 and being able to play for a national championship. So this is a bridge year. I hope they're better than 8-4. But my job is to tell you what I think based on the things I've accumulated in my life. And I always say, Zach, I only know 4 things, and they all start with F.
I'll let people think about what all those could be in just a second. So, Jake, let's talk about the potential path to 9-3, if you don't mind, in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Ibotta. Look, we all hear all the talk about inflation and prices of everything going up. Well, look, Ibotta, it's a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. They've got partnerships with over 2,400 brands and over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite stores like Lowe's, Macy's, Best Buy, and more. But you can get cash back on everything from groceries to beauty supplies, toys. It doesn't matter what it is. Look, the average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of a grocery trip or maybe an extra night stay at a vacation that you've been thinking about. It's time that you've joined the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta and using the code Locked On College. When you register, just go to the App Store or Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app, and start using your cash back. That is code Locked On College. That's Ibotta, Ibotta, in the Google Play and App Store using promo code Locked On College. Jake, when you talk about the path to 9-3, it's like, okay, I think we all agree that Georgia and Alabama are the two toughest. It's like, okay, you need a lot of things to go your way to win those games. After that, what's the toughest game on the schedule in your mind? Is it still Missouri with kind of what you've seen on their defense, or is it somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's got to be Missouri. One, because of their personnel, even though I don't think they're the best team in the league. I got them going 9-3 overall. And it's on the road, right? And depending on how it falls for Missouri, they consider themselves to be in playoff contention this year, building off what they did the year before. So, yeah, I think you would say Missouri. Again, I think A&M is going to be a lot better than what a lot of people realize. I think right now with what they have coming back and really how good they are in the front seven on defense. I mean, you can make a legitimate case that the two best defensive lines in the league are Texas A&M and Florida, believe it or not. I think Florida, even though they got an unbelievably tough schedule and Billy Napier is the butt of every joke, right? I think some people think they're just a bad football team. That's not the case. They don't have a bad roster. They've got a horrific schedule, and Billy's got to figure it out and get organized during the game, similar kind of to Mario Cristobal.
But outside of Billy is still funny.
Oh, it is still funny. I mean, again, I mean, we, every coach should have a nickname, and when you're not winning, those nicknames are not going to be good. But if Billy Napier figures out a way to kind of turn it around and starting off with beating Miami, it's going to go from G5 Billy to G6 Billy, and that's got a totally different meaning. So when I look at Auburn's schedule, though, outside of Missouri, Oklahoma at home is going to be tough, but that's going to be Jackson Arnold and that new offensive line's first SEC road game. Jordan Hare is going to have as much impact on that game as any impact that I can remember. But Zach, again, I mean, outside of at Georgia and at Bama, which is obvious, and then at Missouri, Auburn's good enough to win. Auburn is as good or better than the team that they are playing, whether it be at home or on the road. Now, Kentucky, we'll see. Kentucky's got so many unknowns right now with Brock Vandegrift, with their old offensive line coach coming back from Bama. Barry and Brown's a name to keep an eye on. He's really talented. They got a couple other guys that got some witchy ability on that team. But no, that's I would say Missouri. But, outside of that, Auburn goes out there and plays well. They should win the game.
Yeah, I think so. And I love that Oklahoma and A&M are at home, obviously. The Kentucky game, I'm seeing more and more people predict that as a loss than where I thought they would a few months ago, but that's fine, I guess. I think it's winnable. Like if you told me Auburn won every home game this year, I'd have a hard time not buying 9-3.
Yeah, and obviously that means Auburn's playing pretty well, right? Auburn's figured some things out. I think the reason that Kentucky and Auburn, a lot of people default to who is the home team, is because both of those teams do have a lot of unknowns. Sure. Like as much as Auburn has flipped the roster, there are still a lot of unknowns. How's Peyton Thorne going to adjust in his second year? Are the young players going to come through? Is the offensive line going to gel? How's the defensive secondary going to look? Depending on how the front seven's able to rush the passer and get into passing downs. You look at Kentucky, there's a lot of similarities in unknowns. There's some good moves made. I think them getting Brock Vandegrift from Georgia was a really good move, but we really don't have enough sample size to know how Brock's going to do, especially in SEC competition. So a lot of times when there's a lot of unknowns and you feel like two teams are balanced, you're going to default to the home team. And that's what a lot of people did with Kentucky. And I get it.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Auburn's made progress because anytime you talk about 8-4 and somebody wants to say there's no way, and you ask them to look at the schedule and it's like, okay, where are the 5 losses? Where's the 5th one? And then the response is, well, y'all lost to New Mexico State last year.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that, Zach.
And, you want to go off on that real quick?
Well, that to me tells me you really don't understand how football works, like how the game goes season by season. That's why I'm not a huge trends guy, because if trends were all the same, nothing would ever change. Now, there's some you can look at and some that are important depending on coaching identity, scheme, kind of how you think it's going to happen. But every year is different. Even when you return a lot of the same players, every year is different. The schedule's different. The roster's different at different spots, right? The culture is different. The momentum is different. looking back and saying, oh, that's like saying, oh, well, because Nick Saban and them lost to Law Monroe, they were never going to be good the next year. Oh, wait, you mean when they went undefeated and just started beating the hell out of everybody? Yeah. People that sit here and say that's because they don't do their research on Auburn. It's a funny line. It's a lazy line, and it doesn't live in reality. And I would say that whether it's about Auburn, I would say that whether it's about anybody getting upset. It's like saying, oh, well, Michigan lost to App State, so they're never going to be good ever again. That just, you might as well come out and say, hey, guys, I know nothing about how college football or football really works, but this is funny. And since I didn't do my research, I'm going to say this.
Yeah. It's like, with that logic, like, when's the expiration? Because, like, okay, Notre Dame did lose to App State. And, like, sure, that was funny. That was a funny joke.
There is none.
Like how long can you say that for?
I mean, like, I watched Florida guys block each other against Georgia Southern when they lost. And I still think Florida's going to be fine in the future. That is just a very... you don't see that argument a lot on media because people are afraid to say that because they know it outs them as not really knowing what's going on. It's just, oh, it's funny. Here's a funny thing that I'm going to say that has nothing to do with the reality of the situation. And again, I don't care if it's Auburn, if it's Florida, if it's Tennessee, if it's whatever. I mean, we see even teams in the same year have awful losses early against a team they're better than and then get better throughout the season. And they're a totally different team at the end of the year. So I was shocked to see somebody that's allowed to sit behind a microphone and be taken seriously actually say that.
Yeah. If you want to argue that, like, okay, well, Peyton Thorne, I don't believe in Peyton Thorne or whatever. Like, it's like, okay, like, that's an argument. That's certainly an argument. But then you've got to say, all right, well, what about, like, do you believe in Cam Coleman? Do you believe in Keandre Lambert-Smith? Do you believe in Perry Thompson? Do you believe in Robert Lewis, Rivaldo Fairweather coming back?
It's a totally different team.
Over the offense.
It's year one of a new coach. It's year one of a new coach you ever watched. Year one, you have the least amount of your type personnel in there, even with the transfer portal. And you typically see a big jump in year two. Go look what Oklahoma just did, right? Watch these coaches in year two once they have more personnel there. That's what made it even more egregious. If this was year 7 under Hugh Freeze, and they lost to New Mexico State like that,
yeah,
you could maybe make a case that, hey, this is just who this guy is, and they're going to lose games against teams that are way better than that they shouldn't lose. This was year one. And look when he got hired. Like, I saw that and I was just shocked because, like, you guys at Locked On have some and you keep getting better and better talent. You guys are doing a heck of a job over there. I was just shocked to see somebody that's supposed to be taken seriously say that.
Yeah. So we'll see. Auburn doesn't play New Mexico State this year, obviously, which is
got good, New Mexico.
Yeah, New Mexico, and then the whole New Mexico State team went to Vandy, I guess. So
they did very smart by Clark Lee.
Yeah,
thank goodness we got Vandy at home.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, how can people check out everything you guys got going on? You're putting out incredible content these days, my guy.
Yeah, man, it's prediction week over there, and it's funny. There's no vitriol like college football prediction vitriol from fans when you don't pick their team to do good. Everybody can't win, Zach. I wish I could put everybody at 9-3. If everybody could be 9-3, that'd be amazing. But like I always say, everybody can't be prom king. Look, we're going to be right on a lot. We're going to be wrong on some, but we can back it up with logic and reason. To a certain extent, at least I can. My brother's a different story, but I love him to death still.
He's not even here. He can't even defend himself.
Well, it's Flaming Dragon. He'll be all right. It's Crain and Company, Crain and Company. We're live 2 to 3:30 p.m. Central. YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that stuff. We have live calls, live chat. If you like this show, you're gonna like that one. We were over 60 units, plus 60 units in betting last year. I got Georgia Tech to cover, Zach. I got him at 11. I got him at 11 in case that back door. If FSU's up 4, late touchdown or pick 6 or something, you can still push. Man, it's here. I'm so excited. I know you guys are, and please go subscribe. We're almost to 150,000. We may actually be there by now, but awesome. Go sub over there, and we have a good time, man.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. Check out thebarnauburn.com. Jake's in there. It's very fun. And we'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.